The Senate will come to order. Senator Benson.
Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bills be made special order for immediate consideration. Members, a list is on your desk.
The only bill up for consideration is number 2 on general orders, Senate File 9, Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate File 9 is the Omnibus Jobs and Labor Bill. When the Jobs Bill was before this body during regular session, it was a bill that was really focused on helping the Minnesota economy bounce back from our response to the pandemic and getting Minnesotans back to work. And I'm proud to say that this bill in front of us today is a compromise that keeps those key objectives in mind. I'm just going to talk about some of the highlights in the bill, and then, Mr. Chair, I have a brief amendment. One of the key provisions in this bill is focused on economic recovery. And we are putting $150 million into what we call the Main Street Economic Revitalization Plan. This provides $70 million in direct grants to businesses impacted by COVID, and is really built on the lessons learned from the bills that we had in June and in December. Half the grants will go to the Metro, half the grants will go to Greater Minnesota. It goes to companies with 200 or fewer employees that have not received grants from previous programs. There are minimum thresholds to make sure that micro businesses, which we've defined as 6 or fewer, minority, veteran, and women-owned businesses have a fair shot at these grants. And we want to make sure these grants go out quickly. The $70 million will cancel out in June of 2022. Then we appropriate $80 million to larger economic development projects. These are focused on construction and capital improvements. And when I think of capital improvements, I think of more of the permanent fixtures and renovations that can happen. It allows for a mixture of guaranteed loans and leverage grants. Leverage grants are monies that can be granted up to $750,000, but they require $2 of private money for every dollar of public money. Loans can be made up to $2 million, and those are repaid over a term of up to 15 years. The total state investment must not exceed 30% of any project, and these are available statewide. Additionally, we've allocated $34 million out of the Workforce Development Fund to training programs helping Minnesotans get back to work. We're extending Launch Minnesota. This program was originally intended to sunset in 2024, but because of the pandemic and the recession that ensued, we're not seeing as much take-up, and so we want to extend that program until it spins off and becomes its own entity. We know one of the biggest barriers to employment is child care, so we're putting $8 million into local community child care grants and the Minnesota Initiative Foundation child care programs in 2022 and 23, and then an additional $5 million in the 24-25 biennium. We have almost a $5 million increase to the redevelopment fund next biennium. We're transferring incentives for the Rosemont wastewater infrastructure project and the Duluth paper mill. And that Duluth paper mill project will help keep 150 to 200 jobs up on the North Shore. We're putting $1 million into a logger safety program. We want to make sure that those working up in northern Minnesota in the timber industry have the best equipment and are safe. And we're extending the covenants for the Job Creation Fund and the Minnesota Investment Fund. These come typically with some covenants on wage, job creation goals, and many of these projects fell behind schedule, so we're extending those incentives out until December of 2022. And Mr. Chair, before Senator Rarick talks about the policy changes, I'd like to offer the A50 amendment.
Senator Pratt offers the A50 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Pratt moves to amend Senate File Number 9 as follows, page 8, line 3, delete. This is the A50 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is a technical amendment that we got from the department. It changes one of the citations. It makes funds available until June for the Main Street revitalization plan until June 30th of 2025. Previously, there was a mistake in the date that would have had the funds canceled back before the program was over. And it clarifies a cancellation that we made and then reappropriated in this budget. So, Mr. President, that's the amendment.
Discussion on the A50 amendment. See none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. Further discussion on the bill as amended. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, there are a number of small changes to the policy provisions since it passed off the Senate floor. We took a House provision to allow donations through a deed to go to the State Services for the Blind. We maintained most of the Senate language on BDPI modifications, also allowing Department of Labor to extend their appropriation for campus to update their computer systems. We retained the language about keeping child data safety, child data private with the department, as well as the federal apprenticeship conformity. Probably one of the biggest areas in the policy that we worked on and had a lot of discussion was around UI. And we saw in this last year a number of things that were exposed, and this is a safety net for a number of people. Two provisions that will extend until September are the 5-week suspension for business owners and the leave of absence due to COVID-19. A couple of the other provisions in UI that were discussed a lot, the youth Social Security offset and the reemployment training. All things that I think many people believed were good. The employers pay in for the youth and for the Social Security, yet they were not receiving their benefits. What we came to an agreement on is this will become effective on July 3rd of 2022, and next January there will be a more in-depth report given to the legislature on what the impacts to the trust fund will be with both the youth and the Social Security offset piece, so we can make some tweaks if that report shows us a bigger impact than we anticipated. Another piece, we had some language to protect the contractor recovery fund, making sure that future legislatures do not raid that fund. That was taken along with a House provision that would increase what a single contractor, what their customers could tap into that for recovery from $300,000 to $550,000, because we know that the costs of construction have really gone up recently, especially right now, so we believe increasing that amount was a good thing to do. We also, the nursing mothers and pregnancy accommodations, for the most part, Senator Coleman's language was adopted. There were a few of the House provisions around the effective date that were adopted, and with that, we will stand for questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion on Senate File 9 as amended. Senator Bigham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a good bill on workforce and labor and industry. There is one thing missing, so I'm going to explain a little something, and then I'll have an amendment. I think folks know that I have a refinery in my district, and I think it produces about, I'm going to say, between 105 and 110,000 barrels of oil a day, fuel a day. Everything from jet fuel to asphalt to car fuel. And they're located right in central St. Paul Park, has a lot of businesses and residents and other industrial companies around it. And occasionally, what the refinery does is to improve safety and improve environmental issues or just repair things going on in the refinery, they do turnaround shutdowns. That's what they're called. And they bring in contractors and subcontractors to do work in the refinery. And, oh man, it must have been probably 2 years ago now, I met with management at the refinery and various trades organizations and had a talk because, members, there was a concern about changes that were being made with the contractors and subcontractors. They had previously been using very highly skilled, highly trained, highly familiar workers with the refinery. And that's important, folks, because this refinery uses hydrofluoric acid, there's hydrocarbons, there's benzene, I mean, highly combustible chemicals. And one move can make the refinery go kaboom and hurt people and property and just be devastating. So rightfully so, the 200-plus union workers had some concerns. They're represented by Teamsters 120. So we're talking, and they're explaining that, you know, this is a big concern about the safety of the employees and the community. And the company was polite and said, thank you for your concern. And we left. Fast forward to the end of last year, and they're doing their collective bargaining agreement, and lo and behold, shocking to no one, Mr. President, that this issue would be brought up. And I couldn't agree to it, so in late January, the company locked out the union employees, and this was the reason why. They wanted highly skilled and safe contractors to be used. They didn't want people coming in from out of state that weren't familiar with the facility, the environment in general, climate in general. We have very cold climates here, and they still got to make that gasoline. And so things freeze up and lock up, and so they really want people that know and are trained. So with that, Mr. President, I'm going to offer the A3 amendment.
Senator Bingham offers the A3 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Bingham moves to amend Senate File 9 as follows, page 77, after line 26. Insert, this is the A3 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment requires that any contractor, subcontractor working in the refinery, like on the site of the refinery, shall have skilled and trained workforce performing all the work at the site of the refinery, and this deals with having an apprentice highly skilled program in training. This language, and I'm going to give him a big thank you, is Senator Rarick's language. Now, I introduced an original bill in February of this year, and it didn't get a hearing. And, you know, I have to say, he's kept in contact with me over this issue and trying to work on it, and it's not going anywhere. And so it's a very simple bill, and he actually made it very clear and concise. And so this is a modified version of the skilled and safe worker provision. And, you know, my concern is now that these employees are locked out, and actually last week it sounds like the union's gonna be busted. Less seasoned, less skilled, less trained employees are gonna be replacing folks, but it's about the contractors that will be used in doing these projects and maybe filling in during the time that they are trying to replace the workers. So this is very important to the community. Those of you that don't know, Representative Frankie has 2 businesses that are a half a block away, Mr. President, from the refinery and the tanks that are right there. He does own Park Cafe and really good Kirby. I would suggest that, Mr. President, if you ever get a little hungry. It's my favorite thing there. And then his home is 3/4 of a block away from that. We also have the American Legion, number 98, there. We also have the Friends in Need food shelf that is literally across the street, literally on property that was owned by the refinery. So there are many homes, residents, and businesses there. And this is a big concern about making sure that we have good trained, well-trained contractors that are coming in and helping to keep our workers safe and our community safe. It's been, a rough 6 months in our community, and related to a lot of fear that something unsafe is going to happen at the refinery, whether it's during a turnaround shutdown, which things have happened, and just regular maintenance that these contractors come in and do. So, Mr. President, I would encourage members to vote green.
Further discussion on the A3 amendment, Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Senator Bigham, thank you for offering this amendment. As I look at the A3, Section 4, use of skilled and trained contractor workforces at petroleum refineries, that's pretty basic. And I would think Minnesotans would think that is the least we could ask. It happens that this refinery is very close to a corner of my district. Our school district is right in the middle of this. We have students attending schools very nearby. These are dangerous chemicals, and we need highly trained people handling them and doing this work. I know this has been a subject of discussion. I appreciate that much conversation has taken place by a lot of dedicated members over recent months. I am concerned that we are here at the end of session and it is not going to happen. And so we need to adopt this amendment. And members, I would encourage everyone to support the A3, and I would ask for a roll call. Thank you.
Roll call will be granted. Further discussion, Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in strong support of the A3 amendment. I just wanted to relay that my community of Duluth experienced in 2018, the spring of 2018, a very, very close call with a fire and explosion at the Husky Refinery in Superior, Wisconsin. I just going to remind people a little bit about this. So as a result of the fire and explosion at the Husky Refinery, which uses a chemical called hydrofluoric acid in its refining process, nearly the entire city of Superior, Wisconsin, 27,000 people, was evacuated. And many people were evacuated to the deck, the Duluth Entertainment Convention Center, and set up with cots and food, awaiting to find out when and if they could go back to their homes. People that were close to the refinery over in Superior reported that it felt like something hit the house, like a vehicle or a branch from a tree. They wondered if a plane had crashed. They feared their house might collapse. They looked around outside, they didn't see anything, but then they saw a few minutes later a dense cloud of black smoke rising up over the trees. Several series of evacuations took place over the course of that morning and that day. People waited to find out what was happening. What we found out later, and by the way, we're still waiting for the official report from the Chemical Safety Board, because our former president, Donald Trump, made 3 attempts to actually get rid of that chemical safety board. So we're still waiting for the official report on this explosion that took place on April 26, 2018. But what we found out and what we do know to be true is that this was a near miss. Shrapnel was flung across the yard of the refinery, and it nearly missed, just missed, this tank of hydrofluoric acid. So again, this is a very, very dangerous chemical used in refining processes. If that tank had been hit, it would have produced a cloud of toxic, poisonous gas that could have resulted in the injury and even the death of thousands of people in Superior, Wisconsin, and indeed, depending on the direction of the wind, in my hometown of Duluth, Minnesota as well. So this is no joke. This is no joke, this refining process. This requires very, very strict safety methods, and it requires trained personnel. People who are highly trained in how to handle these dangerous chemicals and how to do right by their communities and provide the safety that we all need and deserve. So I strongly support adding this language to the Jobs Omnibus bill, and I thank my colleague Carla Bigham for sponsoring this amendment, and I urge everyone to join in supporting it for the safety of our communities. Thank you.
Further discussion on the amendment, Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for two reasons. First off, my husband and I own a home right outside of Superior, Wisconsin, and although I'm a Minnesota senator, I do live there on the weekends and during the week periodically. We were there that day. We have friends who work for the city of Superior. I also have friends who work for the city of Duluth, and to say it was terrifying is an understatement. There is no way that we should be allowing unskilled workers to work in any refinery. And so I strongly support my colleague's amendment. I also want to rise as the former director of the construction management program at the University of Minnesota for over 15 years. The skilled apprenticeship program is a long tradition in both the heavy industrial and construction industries, and this apprenticeship program has been around and accepted as kind of a base knowledge for over a century. It's important to understand the apprenticeship program and what it does. What it does is it puts somebody with a skilled journeyman or a skilled employee in a place like a refinery, which is one of the highest hazard opportunity facilities anywhere, not just in Minnesota. It puts an apprentice with a skilled worker. We see that in both construction and heavy industrial work. This is extremely important because not just learning how to turn a gauge or fill a hole, a skilled apprenticeship program will also instruct the worker on culture, on safety, on process, on respect, on expectations. Those are the kind of people I need to see both on construction sites but also in refineries. I cannot imagine that we would not want skilled workers that have gone through a skilled apprenticeship program at our refineries, just like we won't accept it on our construction sites. So again, I urge a strong green vote. Thank you.
Further discussion on the A3 amendment, Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, this is a little bit of a complicated issue, and you know, it is important to me to get it done and to get it done correctly. The original language came to us back in January, and one of the requirements that I asked of all authors of bills to come to my committee was that you have a conversation with the other side. Not necessarily that you had to have agreement, but you had to listen to their side so that you understood their opposition. That did not happen, and we didn't give the bill a hearing. And in March, I really got involved with this bill and started having conversations with both sides. The language that we have here before us today is a great step forward from what the original language was. But I received this language, and we have it in front of us on Tuesday. And I just believe this is an important issue that this language needs more vetting, and we need more time to go through it and make sure we do it correctly. And I think there was a time where we've done things and we find something that's important and we get it done. And as we roll it out, we maybe see some issues and we tweak it, and in coming years, we change it to make it work right. But in October, we passed a bonding bill, and I believe it's 43 projects that have some technical fixed language that in many other years we'd have just done. But it's not happening this year. And 2 years ago, we had a bill that came forward at the beginning of session that we hadn't seen before on wage theft. And it was an incredibly important bill. And Senator Pratt got heavily involved with it. He helped get it done. And as we rolled that out, we started hearing from people who run HR departments at co-ops and schools, not big business. We heard from the people at HR departments saying, we have some problems and there are some issues. Can you help us? And Senator Pratt brought forward some very common sense reforms to that this year. And he was met with total opposition to that. It wasn't even considered. Now, if I believed in a year or two, if we made some mistakes with this bill, that we would be able to tweak it and make it right, that would be one thing. But this precedent seems to tell us that we got to get it right the first time. And there are a number of things that I've worked on since I'm getting into the legislature, from retainage being capped at 5%, and then an effective date for when that gets paid out, eco bill that we did this year. All of those we worked on for over 2 years to get right. And I think many of us, there are so many things that we have to work on to get it right. And I have made a commitment to the trades, and I've told the refineries that I am going to dig into this in the interim. We had a meeting right towards the end of session, and that was the discussion we had, and I believed everyone kind of understood and was in full agreement that we were going to work on this, we were going to get the language right, and we would have hearings on this next year, and we can get it done. I believe there is something that we can do, but we have to get it right, and this language just has not been vetted properly. It is not ready, and I would ask members to not support this amendment, but we will see something next year. Thank you.
Senator Bigham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to clarify something that was incorrectly said by a member of the Senate. I met with the chamber in March to go over my original bill introduced in February.
Hey, members, a roll call has been requested. Seeing no further discussion, the secretary will take the roll on the A3 amendment.
Mr. President, before we take the roll call,
Senator Pratt.
Mr. President, could I ask for just a brief recess?
Senator Pratt, we are under a roll call vote at this point. Any members not in the chamber, please come to the chamber to vote. Call on Senator Frentz to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eakin votes aye.
Eakin votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Herr votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Isaacson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Klein votes aye.
Klein votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Port votes aye.
Port votes aye. Senator Frentz.
And Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson votes no.
Anderson votes no. Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Coleman votes no.
Coleman votes no. Senator Johnson.
Mr. President, Senator Goggin votes no.
Goggin votes no. Senator Johnson.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes no.
Ingebrigtsen votes no. Senator Johnson.
Senator Jasinski votes no.
Jasinski votes no. Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Kiffmeyer votes no.
Kiffmeyer votes no. Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Lang votes no.
Lang votes no. Senator Johnson.
Senator Newman votes no.
Newman votes no. Senator Johnson.
Senator Rude votes no.
Rude votes no. Senator Johnson.
Senator Senjum votes no.
Senjum votes no. Senator Johnson.
Senator Weber votes no.
Weber votes no. Senator Johnson.
Senator Westrom votes no.
Westrom votes no. Senator Johnson.
Senator Housley votes no.
Housley votes no. Senator Johnson.
Mr. President, if I could have just 1 minute.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few changes here. Senator Senator Coleman votes no.
Coleman votes no. She's already voted.
She voted, oh, I'm sorry. Senator Coleman votes yes.
Coleman changes to yes. Senator Johnson.
Senator Goggin votes yes.
Goggin changes from no to yes. Senator Johnson.
Senator Newman, yes.
Senator Newman changes from no to yes. Senator Johnson.
Senator Senjum votes yes.
Senjum changes from no to aye. Senator Johnson.
Senator Housley votes aye.
Housley changes from no to yes. Senator Johnson.
Senator Abler votes yes.
Abler votes aye. Senator Johnson.
That's all I have currently. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Senator Bigham, for what reason do you rise?
absentee voters, Mr. President.
Absentees are automatically counted under the rules that we're under. Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Osmic votes yes.
Osmic votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 50 ayes and 17 nays, the motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. Further discussion on Senate File 9 as amended. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we lay Senate File 9 on the table.
Senator Pratt moves that we lay Senate File 9 on the table. All in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion prevails. The Senate file is on the table. Remaining under motions and resolutions. Any other business? Or are we going to announcements? Yes. Okay. Senator Rosen, before we do that, I believe she's going to make a motion. I believe we're going to have a motion to recess at some point here. Before we take that, are there any announcements? All right, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Finance Committee will convene at 15 minutes after the adjournment or recess, and room 123 Capitol.
Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we're still working on a few global agreement issues, not many. The committees from both sides of the House and Senate have been working together, but there are a few things that we're trying to work together to get done as global agreements. There may even be some announcements today about some of that. As far as today, we're going to recess, but there's no activity that we plan to pick up that wouldn't be just shuffling papers till Monday. So that's, Mr. President, the announcement, and I move for a recess to the call of the President.
Senator Gazelka moves that the Senate recess to the call of the President. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. The Senate's in recess.